we're coming up. It's that time again right now. Hey, everybody, Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy, American expat in Korea, coming to you live here in Korea. And if you're in the United States or some other country, then you're where you're at. Yeah, anyway, today we are rocking a great latte. I'm doing a salted caramel. And yeah, got some real good foam going on. It is hitting the spot. It is perfection. Anyway, today what we're going to end up doing is talking about a lot of different things. One of the things is going to be retired here in Korea, K-pop slavery. I know K-pop is big across the world, especially with the recent movie with K-pop Demon Hunter movie thing, and people are going crazy over that, and K-dramas and K-this and K-hiking and all of that. But we're going to show a different side of K-pop, and is it slavery? And is it something that is contractual? Is it going beyond the limits of a normal work contract agreement? I don't know. We'll get into that. We'll also take a look at an article from the former First Lady of Korea. They have presidents here in Korea, and the president was married, and he had a wife, and yeah, she's up to her neck in big trouble. And the hits just keep on rolling. Wow. Then we'll talk about size dilemma. For those who remember the Gangnam Style, the horse riding, Oppa Gangnam Style, whatever. He's in trouble too. And this goes close to my heart because it deals with some stuff that I'm going through. And apparently, if you're rich and famous, you get bennies. You get bennies that other people don't, even if it's against the law. I don't know. It's just something crazy. And the last thing we'll end up doing is we'll talking about a random act of kindness to close out the video, which is what we need more often than not. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and we will jump right in to take a look at this. And let me do one more thing here. Let me do one more thing. I need to take a look at this, and I need to move that like right up there. Okay, now I feel better. Now with that being said, we're going to jump into this, and what we end up seeing here is K-pop trainee ordered to pay damages to agency over tattoo and dorm rule violations. If you thought your job sucked, it might be that K-pop, being a K-pop personality, might have you thinking twice about this. South Korean court has ruled that K-pop trainee must pay damages for contract violations. Yeah, what type of violations? A K-pop trainee has been ordered to pay 5 million won, or $3,665 to her management agency for breaching the terms of her contract by getting a tattoo on the back of her neck and leaving the company dormitory without permission. Yeah, without permission. It's kind of like, you do a contract, you do modeling work. I did some extra work when I was in Hawaii. I was on a couple of shows, CSI and something else. Magnum PI was also on that one as an extra. So it was kind of cool to do that. But there is contractual obligations that you have, that you will do this, you won't do that. But yeah, Korea's got it in spades, folks. It is pretty wild. They will tell you what you can eat. They will tell you what you can wear, and conversely, what you can't eat, what you can't wear. Oh, you're looking a little too fat. You need to drop 5 or 10 pounds, even though you're skinny as a rail. You got to keep up the appearances. They're actually contracted that the management companies will tell you who you can be in contact with, who can be your friend or not be your friend. Yeah, it is like Uber. It's talk about bad. It is. I would say it is on the verge of slavery, and K-pop slavery, because yeah, you don't really have a life of your own. You live for the management company. Well, it ends up that you left the dorm and got a tattoo. It's not like there's makeup that you could put on and whoop-de-doo, but yeah, apparently this is it. The agency, Majesty Entertainment, excuse me, had initially sought 80 million won in damages, but the court ruled Monday that the trainees' actions constituted only minor violations and reduced the compensation accordingly. We've got to be kidding. That is something that's kind of wild. The trainee signed with the agency in June 2018 under a contract with strict behavioral clauses regulating hairstyle, tattoos, dating, clubbing, and smoking. It also stipulated that each violation would result in compensation obligation of 30 million won. Good Lord, that is, if you go back up here, 5 million won is like $3,600. So, you do the math. I'm not going to do the math. I'm not good at math. The trainee had originally been set to debut as part of a new group in June 2019, but was ultimately excluded from the final lineup because of the violations. The agency attributed her removal to the tattoo incident and interpersonal conflicts with other trainees. It filed a lawsuit filing her exclusion. In its ruling, the court said the court recognizes that the trainee left the dormitory without authorization and got a tattoo without the agency's consent. Therefore, she's obligated to pay the penalty stipulated in the contract. So while everybody is kind of like, ooh, K-pop, boy bands, girl bands, oh, so awesome, it's sweeping the world. Yeah, we got something going on with that, and it's kind of problematic. It can really be problematic. What am I doing here? Holy crow, things are just kind of going crazy here. So yeah, it is indentured slavery is what it comes down to. And some of the other stories that I've seen online about K-pops and people that used to be K-pop trainees or I guess you call them influencers these days, celebrities. Wow, absolutely crazy. They will dictate what you can and cannot eat, who you can and cannot see. Sometimes even that includes family members. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to take some time off and have a mental health day. Nope, that's not going to be happening. Practicing 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours a day on dance moves, dieting, diuretics and all this stuff. It is just, it just wreaks havoc on these people, but they look good and they make some good music. Continues on, however, it added that because of the trainee's unauthorized departure happened only once and the tattoo was small and not easily visible, the breach was not considered severe, so the penalty should not exceed 5 million won. Really? Imagine, now I get it. It's not like we're squeaky clean in the United States or any other country that you come from that has movie stars, celebrities, singers, and groups, and so on and so forth. They have management companies, and there are some rules that are to be had. Don't do stupid. That's probably one of the biggest rules. And we'll get into somebody who got really stupid with the rules, who was a singer, a little bit later on, Psy. But people just don't know about what happens here in Korea with K-pop bands and the mental anguish that it causes these people. And it is cutthroat. And the things that if you look at the contracts and you see the examples of the people who were singers and stuff like that, and they say, well, you can't do this or that or that or that, and you're like, holy crow, there's no way on God's green earth anybody would actually agree to that. But many people do because they want to be K-pop. They want to be the next big K-pop group, BTS, Pink, whatever, not Pink, but Blackpink or, whatever those groups are. It ends up, they'll do anything to get the fame, the fortune, and the money. And unfortunately, a lot of these people will put themselves in position with these management companies that it causes depression, anxiety, it causes, some eating disorders, and that people just aren't generally healthy because they're told to look so super thin, and it's not really healthy. It looks great on camera and stuff like that, but it is definitely not something that you would want to do for any length of time. And it just goes on and on and on. And again, imagine you can't go out of the dorm on your own to say, hey, I just want to go get some ramen. I want to get, a drink. I want to do whatever. I just want to go take a walk and clear my head. That is a violation of the management rules, and you're going to get fined for it if you leave. Other people had ended up saying that during practices, they were told that they could not go to the bathroom until they finished perfecting certain dance moves or whatever it is. Absolutely insane. So while the work ethic is very hard and very structured and incredible work ethic here in Korea, excuse me, on the other side of the coin, we see the corruption and we see the money making, we see the severe overreach of dictating who people are and what they can be and what they can do, and it's all for what? For fame and fortune. So next time you see a K-pop group, think about this and remember that, yeah, it's not as wholesome or as fun-loving as you think it would be. We're going to continue on and we're going to talk about somebody who was trying to be all that she could be, and she went a little bit too far with it. And that is the ex-first lady, Kim Kyung-hee, indicted over corruption charges. And there she is. She's pretty nice looking. Former wife of former President Yoon Suk-yeol arrives in Seoul District Court on August 12th to hear a hearing against her warrant. Wife on charges of political fund violations, stock manipulations, and bribery. And then there's more. We'll get into that a little bit. This is the first time in Korea's history that a spouse of a former president has been indicted. She's also become the first presidential spouse to be arrested when she was put behind bars on August 12th. That's saying something. But then again, that there's corruption in government, so it must have been really, really bad for her to get indicted when there's all types of rumors of past people with bribery and corruption and so on and so forth. This just hit a level that people were like, yeah, we can't ignore this. Following Friday's decision, both Yoon and Kim are set to face trial. Yoon was already arrested and indicted over his insurrection charges in connection with his martial law imposition in December of 2024. He just didn't want, and that whole thing was planned out since earlier in the summer. It was just like there's stipulations in the Korean government that there were certain things and you had to do certain votes in certain buildings, and if you weren't in the building, then you couldn't vote. So Yoon ended up saying martial law and told the military and keep all the opposition out so that they couldn't vote so he could be a dictator. Yeah, that was a crazy time. Tanks in the streets, soldiers, the whole nine yards. It really was just a kick in the shorts for Korea, because whenever you say martial law, that puts an impression of an unstable political thing. Yeah, and it ends up that had reverberated out throughout the economy. It went for foreign and international businesses. It was like, whoa, wait a second, you're calling martial law? We're going to have to drop your credit score because you're not as, steady and stable as we thought you were. Businesses that were going to do business with Korea, other countries were like, yeah, that's okay. We'll go to Vietnam. We'll go to some other country and we'll get back. Our people will call your people. So yeah, it was devastating, and definitely it was outside the bounds of the Constitution of Korea. So there's that. But with her, she took part in stock manipulation scheme involving Deutsche Motors between 2010 and 2012, earning illicit profits of more than 8 billion won, $57.7 million. Go big or go home. Second, between 2021 and 22, she and Yoon allegedly had a political broker, Byung Tae-gyun, conduct opinion polls without paying fees worth 2.7 billion won. And again, kind of like in anywhere else, you have the money, you run for office, and that's how things get done. Finally, she accepted luxury goods, including a diamond necklace and Chanel handbags valued at 800 million from the Unification Church through shaman Jung Sung Bae in exchange for aiding in the church's business. Oh, Yes, aiding in the church's business through the Unification Church. And if you look at the Unification Church, it's not squeaky clean. It's not like, hey, we're going to go feed the homeless. There's a lot. Ooh, bad, 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 bad. The special counsel sought a court order for Kim to preserve assets worth $10.3 billion, which amounts to the proceeds obtained through her alleged offenses. Yeah, you made $57 million, but now the court orders to preserve assets worth $10.3 billion. Prosecutors said they will investigate other allegations, including additional bribery suspicions, which, yeah, it's not looking good for her. Her whole political career is just littered with, yeah, it's going to get worse if they keep digging. Kim was arrested on the 12th, citing risk of evidence destruction. Kind of reminds you of Hillary Clinton smashing phones and tablets with hammers. It's somebody knows, and somebody's going to let it. And everybody, when this all happened, people started coming forward. Hey, oh, by the way, she did this and she did that. Nevertheless, investigators said they secured evidence using transactional records, communications, and testimonies from other figures linked to the allegations. In other words, people are snitched her out big time, and the snitches didn't get stitches. Investigation also widened to examine possible corruption ties between the Unification Church and the then ruling party, People Power Party, with suspicions that Kim played a role in establishing the links. Yeah. She said, I deeply apologize for causing concern to the people. Causing concern. You did fraud. You broke Korean laws. You broke the Constitution. You did stuff that normal people would go to prison forever for. That's not causing concern. That's breaking the law. I will not avoid the path before me and will stand trial quietly. I will not make excuses under any circumstances. Just as the moon shines brightest on the darkest night, I will endure this time while holding on to my truth. My truth. Not the truth. My truth. Oh my gosh. Somebody's been watching too much K-pop drama. What she did is break so many laws. It was just like, it was crazy. She added she would faithfully attend future hearings and thanks prosecutors, correctional officers, and her lawyers for their efforts. But there's also things where she came into play where it was like, she was crying, she was arrested, she's crying, and blah, blah, blah. It was just like horrendous. And so this is obviously a scripted and made up apology to make her seem remorseful so that when the charges do come and the punishment gets handed down, it will be taken into consideration as, it's just the causing of concern, not the laws that you broke over and over and over again. Broken laws multiple times of breaking laws. It's a dramatic reversal for Kim during the presidency of her husband, who's a former. She faced numerous allegations to avoid scrutiny from prosecutors. She repeatedly declined to appear for questioning, drawing accusations of receiving imperial treatment from the prosecution. Prosecutors dropped the Dutch motors and luxury handbag cases, citing insufficient evidence and lack of legal grounds back in 2022. But people being people said, hey, I remember this incident. Here's what happened. Here's my testimony. And boom, now we have evidence that she did these things. During Yu's presidency, Kim was known in political circles as VO, while under the president is also called V, amid the belief that she wielded more influence than her husband V, a term commonly used unofficially in political circles for high-ranking officials, refers to VIP. So apparently she was better than anybody else and thought that the law didn't apply to her, and now she's FAFO. Legal experts have noted that the indictment enables prosecutors to detain Kim while they investigate other pending allegations, including suspected change of an expressway route from Seoul to Yongpyong, Gyeonggi Province, in her favor, and additional stock rigging cases. Additional charges could be added as the probe unfolds. So yes, well, she was getting designer handbags and all this, and it was funny. There were stories about her where she ended up saying, "Oh, I didn't know it was real diamonds. I didn't know the bags were that much or whatever." Yeah, there's laws in Korea, just like the United States, where there's certain rules where you can only accept gifts of certain amounts, and anything above and beyond that is verboten. So yeah, you're not supposed to do that, and everybody knows. And she went the other way. So yeah, very very interesting on what's going on. And it's interesting. You read some of the comments about her, and it's like miserably failed, toppled democracy, dog pool in the presidential residence garden. 11 pets left behind in the care of the Presidential Security Service, and 30 separate criminal cases with publicly available evidence. Conclusion, they did absolutely nothing wrong, and it was just, she apologized for causing concern. Yeah, she has 11 dogs, and the security staff that are supposed to protect ex-presidents and their family, the spouse, they're watching the dogs. So great taxpayer use of money. Yeah, it just ends up, it's just, yeah. And then, of course, there's other people that leave comments and stuff like that saying, oh, it's all part of the, North Korea and they set her up to fail and blah, blah. You got some people that are hardcore on pro and con, both sides of the coin, and it's absolutely insane on some of the stuff that you hear and read. And it's like, holy crow. But the facts are the facts. And when the law says specifically you cannot accept gifts over a certain amount, boom. When the law says, you can't do this little, stock manipulation thing, and there's rules, and this is what stock manipulation is, and you did it, yeah, you broke the law. It's not just a cause of concern, and, oh, I'm sorry, it was a misunderstanding. It's just absolutely crazy. Which brings us to another point, a little misunderstanding that we got going on, a little bit of nepotism and kind of that VIP treatment that we were talking about. We're talking about Psy. Psy is the guy. Now, if you remember Psy, you might be singing, who's Psy? Psy is that Gangnam Style guy with the hit tune that came out that swept the world, the most watched video in the entire world, I think it was at the time. It ends up, let me see if we can make this a little bit bigger. He's in trouble, and because he's in trouble. Singer-rapper Psy has been under police investigation for allegedly violating the medical law by receiving prescription psychotropic drugs from third parties without in-person hospital visits, police officials said Thursday. They're investigating him, whose real name is Park Jae-sung, and the university hospital doctor after booking them on charges of having illegally had third parties, including his manager, pick up the prescription drugs without face-to-face treatment. In other words, he got to get his meds without even seeing a doctor, when the Korean Medical Association is extremely clear, no matter what hospital you go to, and especially with these drugs and these medications, I kind of know what I'm talking about because I have, some mental health medications. Don't act surprised. You knew. But yeah, you have to see a doctor. You cannot, there's medications where you have to get a prescription every 30 days because of the level, the classification of these drugs. And so you have to go see a doctor. You just can't not see a doctor and get these drugs. There are some medications where you can get a 30 or 60-day supply. But when you're talking about these drugs that we're talking about, and Korea takes this very seriously, but apparently not with Psy. What's good for everybody else and what's good for celebrities are two different things here in Korea sometimes. So anyway, he's accused of receiving prescriptions for Xanax and Stilnox from the University Hospital in Seoul without in-person visits from 2022 until recently, and having his manager and other people receive the medicines on his behalf. Wow. Police have detected such suspicious circumstances through a tip-off and recently raided the university hospital to secure the relevant medical records. The current law outlaws proxy prescriptions. They're psychotropic drugs used to treat sleep disorders, anxiety, and depression. They're known to have a high risk of dependence and addiction, so face-to-face examinations and prescriptions are the rule. So, yeah, that's going to be a thing. Psy's doctor reportedly denied the charges, claiming that he was treated remotely. But nobody else can get treated remotely. Okay. Psy's agency, P Nation, issued a statement saying it was a clear mistake and fault to receive prescription sleeping pills by proxy. Oh, it's a mistake. It's a mistake. That's all it is. He's been diagnosed with a chronic sleep disorder, taking sleeping pills as prescribed by his doctor, but there is no proxy prescription, though third parties receive the drugs on behalf of him in some cases. You start getting into medical records in the hospital, he's pretty much cooked. But, he's one of those guys, and he'll probably get a slap on the wrist, and we'll see what happens with that. But very interesting. Psy is also the guy, besides being known for his Gangnam Style, dance hit, song, whatever. He also had a lot of anti-American rhetoric back in the day. And I remember it was the early 2000s, and I was appalled by what he did. And so that's why I never got into the Gangnam Style. I just never got into that, because he actually ended up, and we're going to play a little clip here to show you what the deal was with that. So let us go.
Viral video Gangnam Style launched South Korean rap sensation Psy into the international spotlight, the most watched YouTube video ever. But tonight his lyrics from years ago and some anti-American words are causing anger here at home, just as he prepares to perform for the president. Here's ABC's Muhammad Leela.
Oops.
Call it controversy, Gangnam Style.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
Long before his YouTube hit sparked a nationwide dance craze, Korean rapper Psy performed at a politically charged concert in 2004 with anti-American sentiment running high after a Korean missionary was killed in Iraq. Psy joined another band on stage singing these lyrics. Kill those bleeping Yankees who've been torturing Iraqi captives. Kill their daughters, mothers, daughters-in-law, and fathers.
If you were sitting around making up horrible things that a pop star could say that would get them in trouble, you'd have a hard time coming up with worse things than that.
Many fans are reacting with fury, saying Psy shouldn't be allowed to headline the annual Christmas in Washington concert on Sunday, with the president himself scheduled to attend. This isn't the first time a famous artist has courted a political controversy. But this is different. Psy is so popular his YouTube video is now the most watched of all time. It was social media that helped make his career, and now it's social media that could break it. Even after Psy apologized, saying the song was a deeply emotional reaction and that he will forever be sorry for any pain he's caused, Twitter still has hashtags like Gangnam Style hates America.
Yeah. So, there was all that. And he did give an apology, but that's after it was found out. And then the profit, the money was being affected. And so suddenly he was like, after all these years, no problem with it. No problem with calling for the deaths of soldiers, their wives, fathers, mothers, children, family members, the whole 9 yards. He's been very problematic. And so that's why I never liked Psy. Lyrics matter. And to say that, it was in the heat of the moment, it's like, no, you sat down, you got with other writers, producers, music people, and you put pen to paper, typed on a computer, you went over this with a fine-tooth comb, and you made songs with that hate speech, which now would be considered hate speech. Yeah, and you're saying, no, it was a mistake. It was in the heat of the war and this and that, and in light of the Korean missionary getting his head separated from his body by terrorists, whom the United States was fighting terrorists. It's this whole thing. But yeah, the call for the death of family members. that's pretty bad. And to say that it was a mistake and he'll be forever sorry, I don't know. That went on for years. I mean, it was almost a decade. And the only time he gives an apology is when he gets caught and it affects his bottom line and his celebrity status and so on and so forth. So suddenly there's an apology. So I see that as you're apologizing because you got caught. It's damage control. It's not, hey, I looked back on my life and I was thinking and I was just like, that was a pretty stupid thing to say. And I shouldn't have said that. And instead of, being found out and then apologizing, you didn't come of your own volition and say, you know what, there's stuff in my past that I've done that has been extremely stupid and hateful, and you know what, I have to apologize for that. So two different types of apologies here. One where you apologize because you got caught. The other one, the more sincere one, is because you actually did sincere reflection on your life and you came to the media first. It's not a response. It's not damage control. You came and said, hey, yeah. And now, does he get rid of that song? No, absolutely not. He still gets money off of that, so it is what it is. He was forced to apologize after reports emerged that he had rap lyrics calling for the death of American soldiers and their family members in 2004. He said he regretted using such strong and violent language, but the comments, he said at the time, where emotions were running high, and as a proud South Korean who was you got to see this. As a proud South Korean who's educated in the United States, and I lived there for a very significant part of my life, I understand the sacrifices American servicemen and women that have made to protect freedom and democracy in my country and around the world. While I'm grateful for the freedom to express oneself, I've learned that there are limits to what language is appropriate. I'm deeply sorry for how these lyrics could be interpreted. Kill their mothers, kill their fathers, kill their daughters, kill their sons. That's not an interpretation. That's pretty much clear-cut. You called for killing the family members of American service members. That's not an interpretation. I like how he apologizes, but he deflects in saying, I'm sorry. It was just, I'm deeply sorry for how you can interpret what I said, as if putting the onus on you and me as we had something wrong. Our interpretation is what is the problem, not him calling for the death of. I will forever be sorry for any pain I've caused by those words. But he won't remove the song, and he still gets money from it. In Dear American, a song written by a South Korean rock band Next, he sang about slowly and painfully killing U.S. soldiers and their families. The lyrics reportedly included the lines, "Kill those effing Yankees who have been torturing Iraqi captives. Kill those effing Yankees who ordered them to torture. Kill their daughters, their mothers, daughters-in-laws, fathers. Kill them all slowly and painfully." I don't know. My interpretation of that is you said it and that's what it means. It's not like a double entendre Eminem type of thing where it's about puppy dogs, snails, and rainbows. That's all I'm saying. In another outburst that same year, he protested the deaths of teenage girls that were killed by an American tank that had gone off and hit them and killed them, which was horrible. I don't condone that at all. But to get to the point of saying, hey, let's kill everybody and their family, mothers, mother-in-laws, the whole nine yards. You're talking about things that North Korea does to people because they don't like them. It's not an interpretation. It's absolutely crazy on what ends up, happening and what he ended up saying. So again, his apology, I think, is a day late and a dollar short. And the fact that it was scripted, it was the whole nine yards, and even then he issued the apology. He puts it on you, saying, "I'm deeply sorry for the interpretation of my lyrics." Other times, there's other articles that I saw where he said, I was mistaken, and it's like it was emotional, it was a mistake, and blah 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, no, for anybody that knows about Hollywood and writing songs and putting it onto an album and all this stuff, and the hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of people that are involved in that process, not one person said, hey, Psy, you might not want to do this because this could bite you in the ass later on. No, because he's the Gangnam Style guy, even before that Gangnam Style thing, there wasn't anybody that stepped up and said, hey, you probably don't want to do this. This is kind of stupid, especially since you lived a lot of your life in America and you received the benefits of the United States and living in education and how you got into your music career, and now you're calling for the death of the people that are supporting your country from the onslaught from North Korea. Yeah, it just didn't end up well. It ends up. So with that, we're going to talk about some other stuff here after I take a swig. And what you can do is hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, now's your chance to do that as well. To keep up with this content and the cool looking lights that we have going on here and the new camera. An old camera, but new equipment, video switcher, the whole 9 yards. So I would really, really appreciate that. Next thing we're going to go into is another K-pop thing. Yeah, we're going to go back around and we're going to hit K-pop. And this is interesting because being a retired American expat here in Korea, I'm on an F4 visa. So when I saw this article, I was like, ooh, F4 visa. Somebody didn't get it. And I know this isn't in the title, but F4 visa, this is for the expats and stuff. You might get a kick out of this. So we're going to take a look at this here. And in this, court says former pop star back in would likely not harm public interest, but doesn't lift 23-year-old entry ban. This is Steve Yu, and that's from his Instagram. And for those of you who don't know, he used to be a K-pop singer. And the court in Seoul ruled in favor of Steve Yu, also known as Yoon Sung-jun, in a case to challenge South Korean government's decision to not issue him a visa to enter the country. Yeah, it's F4 visa. That's the visa that my wife has. And there's a story behind this. The court ruled against the South Korean Consulate General in Los Angeles' refusal to issue an F4 visa for overseas Koreans to Yu, rejecting official claims that denying Yu's entry is necessary for the public good. Yu has ended up evading military service in 2002 by renouncing his Korean citizenship, resulting in him being banned from entering South Korea, a decision that he has challenged on 3 different occasions in court. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing because back in 2002, Steve Yu ended up, like, he's getting to the age, and here in Korea, you have mandatory military service. I think it's like 18 to 24 months. And he's like, has a music career and stuff like that. And then the military time, you gotta stop and go do, BTS guys went and did their military service. He was a star himself. And so it's not like he would have a real hard job. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you're a K-pop star and you go and do your military service, yeah, you're not going to be cleaning latrines. You're not going to be doing the hard stuff like normal people. You still do your military service, and I appreciate that. But let's face it, you're not going to be doing what the normal people do. You're not going to be assigned to places that, you're going to hate life. You're going to be given those better assignments, and you're going to get better treatment. It's just a fact of life. There's no different interpretation about it. So when his time to serve in the military came up, he's like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. And oh, by the way, I'm going to go on vacation to the United States. That was the thing, even though he's getting close to the time when he's supposed to do his military service. Long story short, he goes to the United States under the guise of education, I think it was, and then boom, he became a U.S. citizen. And so, yeah, he absconded. He didn't do his duty of Korean military service, and I don't know why. It's not like it would be hard. He was a celebrity, and tons of other people do it. So I don't know why he was so afraid. But anyway, he went to the United States, became a U.S. citizen, and then later he wanted to come back to Korea after renouncing his citizenship, which some people do. But the thing is, like my wife, she's a Korean citizen. We got married. We went to the United States. She renounced her citizenship to Korea and became a U.S. citizen. Excuse me. But then what she ended up doing is found out that we can get an F4 visa for her, and that would allow her to come back to Korea, and then I would be able to get an F1 visa, and yeah, everything's cool. So according to law, it was no problem. The problem lies in the fact that he didn't do his military service. In other words, he made plans to go to the United States, become a U.S. citizen so that he would not have to do his military service. And back in that time of 2002-ish, people were all up in arms about it because, doing that was unheard of. It was like, what? You're not going to do your military service? That's like expected of all males. And how dare you? You don't care about your country, that you don't want to do your prescribed service? And so everybody was up in arms about this. And so he's like, yeah, screw you. I'm going to the United States. I'm a U.S. citizen, blah, blah, blah. And then he started getting homesick. Well, he gets homesick, and then he's like, hey, I want to go back to Korea. And then the F4 visa. I'm a Korean ancestry. I can get the F4 visa. He puts in for it. Korea's like, they're like,
No, 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 no. Wait. Wait.
Yeah, they're like, no. And he's like, wait. And they denied him the visa because he was basically a conscientious objector. If we get back into this, it says it cannot be considered that Yu's actions and words would inflict damage upon the safety of Korea, maintaining order in diplomatic relations. Yu's rights are being infringed upon on a larger scale compared to the public interest that could be gained from banning his entry. In other words, what happened was that they were saying, well, we can't let him in because that's detrimental to Korea because it would have an effect that other people would see, oh, well, he didn't have to do his military service and he got to come back to Korea on an F4 visa. I'll do the same thing. And then that would be problematic because then a bunch of other people would jump on that ship. And, next thing you know, it's like they're having a hard enough time keeping people in the military as it is now because of the declining population. So anyway, they said that and it wouldn't cause any problems. Now, this is the third win for Yu, but no guarantee for his entry. So in other words, he's had 3 court dates and they've all said, yep, you're right. Korea shouldn't have done that. You should... But they haven't given him his visa. So it's like, okay. The recent decision keeps in line with those of the previous lawsuit launched in 2015 and 2020. So remember, he left in like 2002, which he technically prevailed in final rulings issued by the Supreme Court of Korea. The latest legal challenge targeted not only the LA consulate, like the 2 previous cases, but also the entry ban imposed by the Ministry of Justice in 2002. He claimed that the ministry's entry ban on the grounds of refusal to issue a visa for him is invalid, but Thursday's ruling rejected his request to determine the validity of the entry ban, saying it is not up to the court to decide the matter. You didn't do your military service. You planned to not do your military service and you became a U.S. citizen. And now that it's time that you don't have to do your military service, suddenly you're like, oh, I want to come back to my homeland. The F4 visa that Yu seeks is issued to foreign nationals of Korean descent who either had South Korean nationality in the past or at least one parent or grandparent in South Korea. The law dictates a Korean man who formally renounced his South Korean nationality without performing military service can be issued an F4 visa cannot be issued a visa until he turns 41, which he would be. Yu is 48 years old, so he's almost 50. The entry ban and the administrative decision made by the Ministry of Justice was imposed on the Immigration Act, specifically a clause that says a person likely to cause harm to the interest and public security of South Korea may be banned from entering the country. So it might sound like, him coming back to Korea, what harm would that cause? And again, the cause would be that other people would see, hey, He didn't have to do his military service. I'm going to do what he did so I don't have to do mine. And then, yeah, cats and dogs living together, all types of chaos would ensue. While Thursday's ruling did not overrule the ministry's discretion to impose the ban, it did acknowledge that you entering South Korea would not likely harm the interest of the country. So now it's kind of going over and kind of, well, you can't come back, but yeah, that's not for the court to make them give you an F4 visa. So he's still in the same boat. You had been among the most beloved pop stars in Korean music scene before 2002 when he left the country under false promise to state authorities that he would come back and commence his compulsory military service that required all able-bodied Korean men. Upon entering the U.S., where his family had lived and still do, he acquired U.S. citizenship. So what he ended up doing, if you get close to your military service time here in Korea, you actually, and this is where it says that under the false promise to the state authorities that he'd come back and do his military service, he lied. So in other words, this was premeditated. He made a plan. He knew what he was doing. This wasn't like, oh, I went to the United States and suddenly I changed my mind. No, that wasn't a deal. You planned this from A to Z and everything in between, and now you want to come back to Korea, and it's like, now you're like, oh, I want to come back. But you promised. There's like documents that you have to sign saying that you're going to come back and do your military service. So that's what had people, you didn't want to do your military service. You promised that you would to the Korean government. You lied and you didn't. And now that you're getting older, you're homesick, and now you want to come back on the F4 visa. This is just kind of a weird thing going on. So, yeah, that's just kind of what he's going through. Another guy named Steve. And again, if you keep your nose clean, and you don't seem to have any problems getting visas. That's all I'm saying. Very, very problematic. And I don't even think there's even comments. This is kind of crazy because in Korean news, sometimes you'll get comments on articles. Other times you won't be allowed to comment. So, yeah, this is still kind of a heated thing to the point of that it wasn't no comment. So, I mean, what do you think about mandatory military service? Especially for Korea, they need that to have the appropriate force levels to be a deterrent to North Korea. And having served here in the United States military, here in Korea and abroad, and did a career and all that stuff, I can understand that. Now, the other thing that you should know is that this can be problematic because now we're getting to the point of where Koreans are not having as many babies as they used to, so we're having a super age population. With that age population, the reduction in the population means that you're not going to have as many people to conscript into the military to do their mandatory military service. So there's actually, politicians are bringing it up and saying, hey, we might have to conscript women into the military as well. So that's being floated around. There's rumors and articles about that as well. Nothing in stone about that, but it's interesting that as the population declines, we're getting more and more of this talk of saying, hey, maybe we need to draft the women in here to do some time as well. What's interesting is that there's more women in the military here in Korea than there ever used to be, but it's on a volunteer basis. It's not a requirement. So, and usually they're officers, and it's not in like frontline units and things like that. But again, it is a concern, and I do think there's some merit of saying, hey, well, if you let this slide with Steve Yu, and he didn't do his military service and just stayed away, and then now he's trying to come back after age 41. Other people could see that as well and would say, hey, well, he did it, I can do it. And again, that would just cause more problems with the safety and security of Korea. They already got enough problems as it is, with the declining population. So yeah, very, very interesting stuff that we got going on. Again, if you end up just do your time. He could have had a great career, and again, his career kind of tanked and everything when he did that. Koreans were like, nope, we're going to have nothing to do to you. And if you know anything about Koreans, if you're in their good graces, they will follow you until the ends of the earth. They will follow you until the world, the sun explodes and we're all gone. But if you spit in their faces, yeah, they will. There's still old people there, or son of a gun. There's people that are still angry at him for what he did. It is a very nationalistic country, and again, if you don't want to do your military service, and when all these things came out, I don't know. But my question to you is: do you think military service should be mandatory in Korea? Do you think people should be allowed to? Yeah, just don't want to do it. I'm going to go somewhere else, and then I'll come back later. It's kind of like, you want the job and you want all the benefits, but you don't want to do the work. The duty as a citizen. So I don't know how you feel about that. I think you need to do your time. I did my time in the military, but it was voluntary, sort of. The judge highly recommended that I do something with my life, and certain things would go away. So, yeah, not technically forced to, but I was highly encouraged to join the military. So I did that, and that was a great thing for me. What we'll end up doing now is we'll talk about some good news, because there is good news in Korea, and this one just hit my heart, and I was like, oh, this is a good one. So we're going to take a look at this, and we'll close this video out. It ends up a foreign exchange student lost tuition money, safely returned thanks to a good Samaritan. Oh, and there it is. There was the lady there, a heartwarming story from Busan. A foreign exchange student who lost her tuition money the day before payment deadline, able to recover the entire sum just hours later, thanks to the honesty of a local citizen. Aww. And people wonder why I like Korea. It's the people are wonderful, and wow. So we get to the story. It says the incident unfolded when two international students anxiously walked into a police station. Language barrier because they're from Sri Lanka. She lost an envelope containing her tuition fee of about $850, which she worked hard to save. They couldn't speak Korean well. They were nervous. They're panicking, because if you can't pay the tuition, you can't go to school. So there it is, and little clip there of the lady on the right found the envelope, turned it into the police station, and this girl, this from Sri Lanka, she just overcome with joy. So that is awesome. Roughly 5 hours after the report was filed, a woman in her 60s arrived at the station. She carefully pulled the envelope from the bag and it had the full amount of money. She explained that she found it on her way to work, and after finishing her shift, she went directly to the police station to hand it in. The student broke down in tears when she saw the money. After rushing back to the station, the student cried, eventually hugged the woman who saved her from a potentially devastating situation. The student from Sri Lanka expressed her gratitude and explained, "That lady was a complete stranger to me, but I never felt so happy and thankful. I didn't know there were people like her in this world." Aww. The Good Samaritan, identified as Jung Sung Ja, explained, "Someone must have been heartbroken to lose such money. I thought if I turned it in after work, the police could return it to the person. Anyone would have done the same. Still, it feels good to know I helped." Oh, that's just so sweet. So, yeah. This is actually so sweet. God bless. In the West, it would have got stolen and forgotten. Yeah, it's just a great thing going on. I mean, stuff like that is the stuff that restores our hope in humanity. And when you have people that break the law and are involved in political corruption and people that are calling for the deaths of other people, what really stands out are the people that do random acts of kindness out of their heart, not because they're in front of an audience, not because of, they have some agenda of trying to say, oh, well, I got to do this, to make myself look good, to give me some clout. No, this is just an honest person being honest and returning something that she knew was valuable to somebody else. And she didn't think twice about it, about saying, hey, oh, man, this is a lot of money. I could use it. That shows you where the heart of a lot of Koreans are. And so many Koreans have good hearts and they have strong work ethics, and that's what I really appreciate about it. And that's another reason why there's not a lot of crime in Korea. Yeah, sure, there's the laws and there's this and there's no guns and there's, the political and all of that. But really it comes down to culture, and it comes down to the heart of people. You have a lot of good people in Korea, and I appreciate that. So that's another reason why I like being here in Korea, because I can go to coffee shops, I can have a laptop, I can have my phone, I can leave it set on the table, I can go to the bathroom, come back, none of my stuff is gone. People, if something drops out of my bag, hey, sir, you dropped this. Oh, thank you. When they didn't have to do that, but they do, because it's kind of like they're treating others the way they want others to treat them if they were in a similar situation. So yeah, it just ends up, it's very cool to see what's going on. And for a lady who lost her tuition money, and this older Korean lady found it, turned it into the police, and then returned it to this lady, that is just absolutely cool. And again, I think it ends up, that just says it all right there. She gave the money that she found back to the foreign student. That was her tuition money that was due that day. That just restores the hope in humanity. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Hey, we got Sparky here. Morning, Sparky. Sparky ends up saying, hey, very high trust society. Yes, it is. That's another reason why I like Korea, is the respect, the trust, the lack of crime. It's a thing here in Korea. And I think it's kind of like the way the U.S. used to be in the 50s and 60s, maybe even into the 70s as well. Probably I was born in 66. I remember the 70s and the 80s. I remember Star Wars when I was like 10 or 11 years old. I think it came out like 76 or 77, whatever it was. But I mean, if you lost something, people would return stuff, and seek to do good and return lost things that were lost. And we saw a lot of that. There were so many stories of where, you didn't lock the doors in your house, or your car, you never used the locks in your car, because, who in their right mind would lock their car? I mean, we're here in our neighborhood. Nobody would do that. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that in the United States. There's still places where that is real, but in a lot of places in the United States, it's not like that. So that's why I appreciate Korea. Not a lot of crime, nobody's into your business, and it's like, hey, do good, And more, you see these random acts of kindness. You see people that help out, even if it's just something simple of saying, hey, no, don't buy this. I remember seeing a foreigner in a discount store, or not a discount store, a convenience store, and this person was trying to purchase this thing, but obviously it wasn't what she thought it was. And so a Korean came up and was telling her, no. And through translation or whatever, they were able to figure out that, yeah, that wasn't the product that the lady wanted. She wanted an edible product, and this product wasn't edible. And so, yeah, but the Korean lady didn't have to do that. But imagine being in her shoes, being in a foreign country and not knowing and not being able to read and understand labels and things like that. And if you bought the wrong thing and tried to eat it and it ended up it wasn't an edible product, that would be really frustrating. So yeah, there's lots of times where you see people do that and help out. Korea's busy, it's fast paced. I'm retired, so I kind of get it from another perspective. But I've never had a Korean, if I asked for directions or asked for help, or any of the time, like when I was in the service before I was married, we're talking way back to 1988, and then even after we got married, we never experienced Koreans who, when we asked for help, that wouldn't help us. So there's something to be said for that, and it's reminiscent of what America used to be a long time ago. And so that's why we ended up retiring overseas and spending our time here in Korea. And yeah, good stuff. So anyway, do good. Please do good. That would be a thing. Doing good is a good thing, and it's nice. It's just a nice thing to do. So anyway, that's what we got going on. A little news here in Korea. It's still oppressively hot. We had some rain, and so the humidity is tanked out. You go outside, it's like you're swimming, and it's like, oh, I can't wait till fall comes and the cold weather begins. But in the next, 17, 18 days, something like that, we're going to be taking a trip to Vietnam So I'm not sure how that's going to work. We'll probably do some, we're going to get some cell phones and eSIMs, and I'll probably do some updates via my phone. When we go to Vietnam, we're going to go to Hanoi, we're going to go to Sapa in Franzipan, the highest peak in Asia, and we're going to take a look at that and probably get some altitude sickness and, get lightheaded because there's not a lot of oxygen. It'll be an interesting little trip, so we'll get coverage on that as well. Sparky pops up and says, I will be in Korea for a month in October. Hope we can catch up. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, in October, we should be in Korea in October. So, yeah. See if we can make that happen. We can have some coffee and should be a good time. The question is, where are you going to be in Korea? So you're going to be in Seoul, or you're going to be around, further south, around Pyeongtaek area or whatever. Busan. I can't remember directly on where you said you were going to be going, but yeah, meet up for coffee. That would be kind of a cool thing, I think. So, with that being said, that's what we got going on here inside Korea. K-pop slavery, former first lady's in trouble with all of her corruption and broken laws and stuff like that. Psy's dilemma, the Gangnam Style guy who was, getting medications without prescriptions or being seen. It must be nice. I have to go every 30 days to get my mental health meds. He doesn't, but he got caught. Now he's in trouble, and now he's saying, "Oh, it was a mistake." No, it's not. It's not a mistake. It's clearly you broke the law and had other people get that stuff. Sparky says, "I live in Seoul, but can visit Pyeongtaek." Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe we could do something like that and you see what goes on. That'd be interesting. I meet every once in a while. I'll see other people that come to Korea who are retiring Korea or thinking about it, or my wife and I will be shopping in open air market or some department store or whatever, even on post or off post, and people will come up, "Hey, you're that YouTube guy," and it's like my wife is like, "Oh no, not again," and I'm like, "Hey," and everybody has been cool. Which is nice. It's kind of cool to meet people and people that were like, hey, we retired here in Korea too. It was the best thing for us. And again, don't come to Korea because we're in Korea or because I had a good experience in Korea. Do it because you want to do it. That's what it comes down to. But it's cool to meet people and, to kind of get a handshake every once in a while and be recognized and, have some coffee and talk and chat and have some fun. And yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. I'm not really a people person, hard to imagine, but I'm very particular on the people that I associate with and the people that I have run into or have met. They've been great people. So that's a testament to all the people that watch the videos, or you all are top notch in my book. So with that, we're going to close this out. We're going to go get some breakfast this morning. I'm going to hit La Paine, a little restaurant across the way. Going to have breakfast with our daughter, kind of catch up on what she's doing, and we'll finish that up. So with that said, hey, there's a bunch of people over here who bought me coffee. There's a link in the description box if you want to do that. But the best thing that you can do, smash that like button on this video. That would be the best thing that you can do. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, take the time to subscribe, then push the like button. That'll be the most awesome thing that you can do. The email address, if you want to email me, say hi, questions about being an American expat here in Korea, 3D modeling, 3D printing, painting miniatures, all the stuff that I end up doing here on my channel. Shoot me an email. I will respond usually in 1 or 2 days, but I always answer my emails because, it's kind of an important thing that I said. And the channel's doing well. Again, your support on this channel is great and able to get better lights and make things look prettier than what they were. And I appreciate that. And it just kind of fuels me to make better videos. So with that, my thanks to you, and we will see you all on the next video. All right? Thank you for watching. Peace. Sparky, we'll see ya. We'll see you, Sparky.